So hello everyone, and happy to be here with you, happy to welcome you. And and there's something that begins to happen, maybe for many of us, if we pay attention, if we allow it to be the case. Something begins to happen as soon as we put ourselves into our meditation posture. Especially if we've been doing it for a long time, it's a familiar posture. And the associations are there, the orientation, the body, mind, heart's inclination to become meditative is, can kind of kick in. And one of the consequences of sitting down to meditate, or one of the aspects of it, is that it is a stopping. If you're sitting in meditation, seated meditation, you've stopped activity, other activities moving about. In your mind, hopefully you've stopped searching the web, or with your eyes, your ears, trying to figure something out, trying to search and study. And perhaps it's a stopping of the rumination, fantasy spinning out. There's a kind of a stopping that goes on here. And it's a stopping that is not meant to be a breaking, a bracing. It's a stopping that's meant to help us become clear, to see more clearly, to recognize. It's like being making it to a promontory, a vista point. And once we kind of come up to that vista point, we can see the land around us. We see it more clearly. And so this stopping in meditation, and we stop, if it's whatever is easy to stop, we stop. Except for mindfulness, we stop moving as much as we can. Stop a lot of discursive thinking, having conversations and talking about things to ourselves. We might stop tensing. Sometimes we don't even know how much we're tensing until we stop and sit down and begin feeling the body. And the body itself will kind of begin releasing the tension, which is a kind of a stopping of it. And this stopping is meant to kind of clear the clouds, the fog, help us to see clearly. So it's not stopping for its own sake, but stopping so we can see. So here we are. Some people call it a sacred pause, a sacred stopping. In Chinese Buddhism, the Chinese pictogram character for samadhi or samatha is the Chinese character for stop. So somehow the samadhi is a kind of a deep stopping as opposed to a deep attainment. Just pause, sacred pause. So assuming a meditation posture that supports you to let the body be still. And gently, as the body is still, can you let there be an inner stilling of the body by relaxing? Maybe relaxing from the core outwards. Maybe relaxing from out from the edges into the core. If you're able to feel someplace deep inside that's still, peaceful, has some quality of not moving in agitation, soft stillness within. As you exhale, relax everything around it and settle into that inner stillness. Gently letting the mind become still, quieting and stopping discursive thoughts. You might still have other kinds of thoughts, simple thoughts of meditation, but the large conversations in the mind, let them become quiet. If they are the fog, let that fog clear. The sun of awareness has come up, clearing the fog. And with whatever stillness, stopping you can easily do, may that allow you to have a bit more clarity of mind, clarity of awareness, as you accompany your breathing. There is a kind of stopping that is resignation, a giving up and shutting down. And there's a kind of stopping that is opening up to gaze upon the view, to gaze upon what is here without interfering. Just clarity, letting things come in as clear as they can into view, into perception. If you find yourself thinking a lot, consider stopping. Consider becoming stiller. And in the stilling of the mind, becoming clear. And then let that clearing accompany your breathing. Or let your breathing accompany the clearness. to stop. And in stopping, opening to greater clarity here and now. And as we come to the end of this sitting, for a few moments here, assume that your heart's wish is to be able to smile. And it's on the verge of smiling. If only something else would stop. What needs to stop to make room for the heart to smile? What fear, what desires, disappointments would need to pause so you can gaze upon the world with a smiling heart. Not because you're making it smile, but because it's what the heart wants to do. It's asking to be able to smile, to be uncovered from the coverings of fear and desires, despair, disappointment, grief, fantasy, rumination, to allow there to be a pause to all those things, so there can be an uncovering of the smiling heart. And from that heart to gaze upon the world kindly, a kind smile that wishes well for everyone. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Thank you. So welcome to this third talk on strategies for working with challenges we have. And one of the ways of developing skills for being with life's challenges is to train on the small challenges. Life gives many of us huge challenges from time to time. Some of them are so big that the legacy of them still live in us in difficult ways, fear and anger and grief and different things. And sometimes it's too much to be able to sit with it, be with it, to open to it, and without having trained, without having prepared the ground for being able to do that. Some challenges possible, especially personal inner challenges that are legacy of other things that's happened to us. Sometimes it's better to do our best to kind of manage with them wisely, put them on the side, until we spend the time preparing ourselves for really addressing them in a useful way. And then training with the small challenges. And the training for this week is to start asking yourself the question, what strategy are you using in relationship to this challenge you're feeling? What are you trying to do with it? And simply asking that question and stopping to investigate that is a powerful thing to do, because it begins to pull you out from being entangled or lost in the challenge. It's like stepping back and trying to get the overview. What's happening here? And given what's happening, how am I responding? What is my mind, my heart trying to do here? And there are two general ways, the things to notice, whether the direction you're going makes it harder to be aware, shuts down awareness, kind of you get wrapped up or entangled in what's going on, or trapped by it, or hindered by it, or it's a way, or there's a strategy that has more the effect of helping you to open more, help you see more clearly, help the wisdom in you to come forth. The wisdom that can only come forth if you're not entangled, if you're not lost in it or caught up in it. You have to be able to step back, pause, and make room for wisdom, clarity, compassion to kind of show itself in a way it can't show itself if we're entangled or caught in what's happening. And this is also why it's so powerful to really ask the question, what's happening here and what am I trying to do? And so in terms of trying to, this week, using the hindrances as a reference for the 5 hindrances for what is dysfunctional ways of being with challenges. Today it's the third hindrance, which is usually translated into English as sloth and torpor. And I don't think that that is quite right, translation of the Pali. The first word that's translated as sloth more literally means to become stiff or rigid. And maybe it's akin to the modern psychological idea of freeze, like when some people freeze in the face of challenge. Freeze, fight, or flight. And so it's a shutting down of something shuts down, something closes down. And we freeze, maybe go numb. And this can often be a product of fear. Fear gets the upper hand and kind of shuts us down. It's too much what's happening. There can be other strong emotions that has that effect on us. And it can have the byproduct of turning away from what's happening. Part of the reason to shut down or to freeze or to become rigid is so that we don't have to deal with something. And so sometimes it's like the ostrich that puts its supposedly head in the sand to not see the danger. So that sometimes the freezing is kind of a shutting down, and sometimes when it's real extreme. It happened to me when I was young. I remember something that made me really afraid, and I had a clear feeling that I just disappeared. I wasn't there. I couldn't understand why people were looking in my direction because I disappeared, and it wasn't an imminently dangerous situation, but so there's no immediate threat to me. But I remember that later I found myself walking down the street and no idea how I got there. Something inside of me had turned off, and I guess I left the place, and I don't know how I left, what I said. So this something shut down, and so we can feel that. We can feel kind of shutting down, closing up, resisting, kind of, I'm not going to deal with this. Something gets rigid, something gets tight, something gets closed, locked. And we can feel it physically sometimes. We can feel it over the heart. Remember when I think I was 15 or 16, maybe 15, a friend of mine said something to me, and I literally felt like the doors of my heart just closed, like locked up. And I remember having this thought, kind of like, I'm never going to open that again. And it wasn't until I started meditating some 4 or 5 years later that something that had closed that day began opening. So this shutting down, closing up. And so that's kind of the dysfunctional way of responding. The more functional way, the healthy way, the wise way, also involves a stopping, a stilling. Both of these are kind of a stopping. And but the other side of it, the functional side of doing the same kind of thing, is to stop, to pay attention, to stop, to be present more for what's going on, to take a step back, either metaphorically in the mind or sometimes physically, to get the overview. What's happening here? If there's an argument and you're caught in the heat of the argument, sometimes it's a really healthy thing to stop, to pause, ask for a pause, and maybe even step away a few feet. Pause. I need to spend time thinking. I need to kind of feel what's going on, and maybe kind of make it a little physical distance. Also, maybe explaining why, so you can catch your breath, so you can get your bearings and really understand better what's going on. And so to the degree to which there can be an inner stilling, the stopping in the form of an inner stilling, not a numbing, the inner stilling is, again, allows us to feel, make room for what's there. There's a feeling not of closing down or locking up, but there's a stilling which has more a feeling of opening up, of becoming more full, or kind of a sacred pause. What's happening here? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I trying to do? What's happening with the person that I'm with, or the situation I'm with? Can I take a second look? What's happening? And the idea of pausing and looking, pausing and reflecting, I find it invaluable, because even to this day, my mind will produce interpretations or bias or jump to conclusions about a situation. And if I'm kind of moving along kind of fast, I don't see my mind has done it. There's something in my mind that predisposes it sometimes to a certain confidence in my ideas. And so I have a erroneous idea, but the confidence I have rides along with it, thinking that it's right. But I know myself well enough that if I can pause, stop, become a little bit still, then I can see, oh, that's an interpretation. I'm overlaying a guess onto the situation. And then I've learned to put a question mark after my assumptions, my guesses, my conclusions that I make. Even when I'm confident sometimes that I'm right, I'll learn to put a question mark after it. What is this? Is this really so? And the more consequential my view is, my decision is, my ideas are about what's out there, the more important I feel it is to stop and pause and live for a while with that conclusion. Reflect on it. See if it comes up repeatedly. If it comes up 2 or 3 more times, like, oh yeah, this is right. Then maybe I give it a little more credence. Then maybe I give it more attention and explore a little bit more what's going on. But this stopping so we can see, stopping so we can question, stopping so that we can catch our breath and really kind of look at things in a fresh way. So there are 2 forms of stopping. Just like in relationship to hindrances, there's 2 forms of each kind of movement of the mind. One is the hindrance, and one is opening to wisdom. And so with the first hindrance desire, there's sensual desire, there's desires which causes problems, and there's desire to open up, a desire to see and to be free. There's healthy desires. And when we're with challenges, can we see the difference? Which desire are we operating on? In challenges, there's averting, and there's healthy averting, turning away or saying no. And so can we see the difference between the healthy and the unhealthy? And today, there's the unhealthy kind of hindrance of sloth and torpor, freezing, getting still, getting numb, shutting down, kind of going asleep in a certain way. And there is stopping, pausing, that it opens us up, that makes us more clear, makes room for wisdom. So this is my words for today. And what I'd like to suggest is that you take a look at this. The movement of shutting down, turning off, getting bored, going numb, losing interest, all that is a symptom of this 3rd hindrance. Waking up, being interested, clear, investigating, even a situation that at first might seem boring, certainly there's something about it that you can study and look at and kind of see what's the interesting thing, what's going on here. To do the little bit of work, pausing, stopping, not to be lazy, but pause and stopping so you can figure out what is the mind's work here that is beneficial and healthy and creates maybe a better connection and empathy for the person I'm with, the situation I'm with myself. So you might look today for opportunities for this. See what goes on with your mind, with your awareness. Is it in some way or other shutting down, or is it opening up in the situation you're in? And if you see the difference, choose opening up. So thank you very much, and look forward to being together tomorrow.